Okay, so this is going to be different. As you may know, I am in Detroit, so I don't have all the gadgets with me, which means that, the quality of the video might be a bit different than what you're used to. But I felt it was important that I do this anyway because I wanted to like share an important lesson that I found that I learned in the past 2 weeks being in the USA. And it's all about, competing with your product in a competitive market. So in this video, I'm gonna be talking about how to build your product if you're in a competitive market. I'm gonna share my approach to doing a differentiation strategy at the end of the video. So stick till the end, and yeah, let's get going. So founders often come to me because their marketing, their sales aren't working, especially around this time. It's the end of Q1. The results aren't probably all that great, and there is a trend. There is a trend that often the founders who seek help are founders of products that compete in highly competitive markets. And after explaining the challenges, my question to these founders is usually just, have you considered how many competitors you have? Let's say you're now in AI space. Um, and the AI space right now is a race with tons of products popping up almost every day and competing for the same market share. So, how many competitors do you have, and what's your differentiation strategy? How will you stand out if you have a ton of competition? How are you different to everything else that's out there, right? So, I'm a big fan of big advocate of positioning, but especially so when you're competing in a highly competitive market. Because let's face it, if you're in a blue ocean kind of market, then you can sort of have as your positioning, your messaging a bit. You can slouch a bit. Your messaging could be a bit off and still work. Your product might be a bit unfinished and it could still work. But in a competitive market, you really can't afford that. So, for example, with my last startup, we launched a product in Slovenia first, so our native market first. And we tested the messaging, you know, we tested the product on the market, and we immediately got traction because the market is so underserved that even if we didn't have super specific messaging, super tight positioning, we could still make it work because like people had nowhere else to go, right? But when we tried to penetrate the US market, that didn't work. Our messaging didn't work. Our marketing failed big time. Most people just didn't understand our product because we tested the messaging on a non-competitive market, but then used the same message in a highly competitive market. So, you can get away with poor positioning if the market is right, if you have a product that's truly unique in that market. But the moment that the market, there is more competitors on the market, you're gonna have to improve your messaging and nail that positioning. In a competitive market, you simply won't get away with a message that just kind of works. Your product needs to stand out. You need to like your product, your messaging needs to stand out if you want to attract your best fit customers immediately, because people just don't have the time to do the research and spend 30 minutes on your product to see if it works or not. they don't like they need to get it immediately. People are busy. So as I said, I'm currently in Detroit, um, and Detroit is best known in the U.S. and probably outside as well as the biggest city that ever went bankrupt in 2013. But what I found in Detroit is actually amazing. It's people, coming together because they just won't let that batch stick. They just want to make a change, and the city basically changed the strategy. They diversified their economy, and they started attracting tons and tons of tech startups, which resulted in Detroit being ranked number one emerging startup ecosystem in the Midwest. And that means that there are lots of startups coming in, and it's becoming a highly competitive market. And so, for example, I spend my days at TechTown, which is the biggest tech startup hub in the area, and I work with ISM, International Strategic Management Company, which basically helps create startup hubs, especially working with companies that are underserved. And I'm helping them with positioning and their messaging. An interesting story, when I arrived in Detroit and I had my first meeting with the CEO of the company, Ferry Salami, he and I were talking about their positioning, their messaging. And, I had all the typical questions like, who are your customers and all that. And we came to talk about competitors, obviously, because like you need to understand who your competitors are if you want to stand out. And I asked, like, can you give me an example of one or two competitors that you have? Who do you compete with? And how many competitors are out there? How many competitors do you have? And he said 3,000. And I'm like, okay, so 3,000 competitors in the US. Okay, that's, it's a lot, but still manageable. He said, no, 3,000 in Detroit. You know, how are you going to stand out? There are 3,000 companies doing the same thing as you. You need to have a clear differentiation strategy. Your positioning, your messaging, they need to be on point if you want to attract the customer, because your client, if you're not going to stand out, your client is just going to switch to a competitor who does it better, and that's it. So you need your product, you need your service to stand out, right? And plus, if you then add the, how busy these people are, like, people here are like at two, even three meetings at the same time. You have your laptop, your Zoom meeting on your laptop, you have your, Microsoft Teams on your phone or something, and then you talk to the person next to you as well. So how are you going to attract a person like that if your messaging, if your message is not on point? Because you can't get their attention if your message is not on point. So you need to stand out. And when I said to the CEO, look, this is what I do, positioning, messaging, I help your company stand out, he just looked at me and said, this, to me, this is invaluable. And so, in a competitive market where, you have, two big competitors, or, you have 5, 10, 500 products that do the same thing as you do, you need a clear differentiation strategy that will help you acquire and retain the customers. Like, clients need to understand how you're approaching their problem differently, how your solution works better for them than another competitor. And if you have like, 10 competitors, your differentiation needs to be strong. But if you have like 20, it needs to be that much stronger. Now, how I like to differentiate is to think about the company's biggest strengths, both as in team strengths and product strengths. So and turn that into benefits. So, for example, yesterday I talked to one of my competitors, and we were talking about our processes, how we do things, all that stuff. And he said his biggest advantage is that he can get the results to his clients in less than 24 hours. Me, on the other hand, I'm a thinker. I like to think things through, which means I like to spend a couple of weeks on your project, so that we really nail all the components of the positioning. So if you need something fast, you're not going to come to me, and if you need something deep, you're not going to go to him. If you have a contract to sign with an investor, with a VC, and he just doesn't see the value, and a differentiation strategy is something that you need immediately to improve the conversation with the VC, and you have 24 hours, his solution is going to be the best for you. You're simply going to go to him. But if you have 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, and you need your positioning strategy or differentiation to work for some time, to work for a longer period of time, then you'll probably come to me, because you don't need the speed, you need the quality. One is not better than the other, it's just different. I will attract customers who will want to get things done in a certain way, and he will attract customers who want things done fast and not be bothered with it. And there are a lot of people like that, because they just simply want fast results. And that's the difference. That's what you, in a competitive market, need to be clear about, how your product solves a person's problem in a different way to anything else that's out there. You need to be different. You need to stand out. And so, as I said, as I promised in the beginning of the video, here are the steps you need to take to get your differentiation strategy going. So, first of all, pick 5 attributes, usually 5 product features that your product has. You can couple that with team attributes as well, and turn that into benefits for the customers. So in the example that I talked about, I'm a thinker, and that's I will get you better results in the long run, more in-depth results in the long run, but my competitor is faster. So pick 5 product features, turn them into the benefits that your customer gets from these features, and think about what the users get from your product. What are the values that they get because your product is different to anybody else. And you can do this exercise through the template that I'm going to be sharing beneath. So if you want to do this interactively, just click on the button below. It will take you to a questionnaire. You can fill it out, and you'll get your results via email. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share today. So spread the word. Send this email to anybody who any founder that you think might benefit from this. I will be super grateful to you. Have an amazing time, and as always, may your customers love you and understand your product.